My name's Earl McKenna. I've been fishing these waters longer than most folks have been breathing, and I've seen things that'd make a preacher question his faith. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened that October night in 1978, when I decided to chase a legend that should have stayed buried in fishermen's tales. They say the sea don't forget. Well, I'm here to tell you, it don't forgive either. The other fishermen at Murphy's dock thought I'd lost my damn mind when I said I was heading out alone that night. "Earl," old Tommy Bridger said, spitting tobacco juice into the gray water, "you know what they say about that fish. 3 men tried for it this season. 1 lost his boat, 1 lost his arm. The third, well, he ain't been right in the head since." I just smiled and kept loading my gear into the Mary Catherine, named after my late wife, God rest her soul. The truth was, I needed that fish, not for the money, though a bluefin that size would have fed my family for months. No, I needed it because 40 years ago, I made a promise to this ocean, and I'd spent every day since pretending I hadn't. The legend went like this. Somewhere in the deep waters 30 miles off Booth Bay Harbor, there swam a bluefin tuna, bigger than any man had a right. Some said it was 20 feet long. Others claimed it glowed in the dark like phosphorescent plankton. But everyone agreed on one thing. It couldn't be caught, not because it was too strong or too smart, but because it didn't want to be caught. And what the sea don't want to give up, it keeps. I left the harbor just after sunset. The sky was bruised purple and orange. There wasn't a cloud in sight. No moon either, which is how I wanted it. The stars would be my only company out there, and that suited me just fine. I'd been fishing alone for near about 15 years, ever since Mary Catherine. Can't say I missed the conversation. The Mary Catherine cut through the water like she always did, her old diesel engine humming a song I knew by heart. I passed the outer buoys around 9 o'clock, and by 10 I was in open water, nothing but black ocean in every direction. I killed the running lights and let the boat drift, listen to the water lap against the hull. That's when I felt it, that electric tingle in the air that tells you something's different tonight. Fishermen know that feeling. It's like the ocean's holding its breath, waiting to see what you're gonna do. I baited my line with fresh mackerel, the kind that bleeds real nice and sends a scent trail down into the deep. My hands moved automatic, tying knots I'd tied 10,000 times before. The rod was my favorite, a custom Penn International I'd had since the 60s, strong enough to land a marlin, but sensitive enough to feel a shrimp tap the bait. I cast out into the darkness and waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. The stars wheeled overhead, and I thought about Mary Catherine, about the promise I'd made standing on the shore of this same ocean when I was just 18 years old. "If you bring me home safe," I'd whispered to the waves that day, scared and stupid and desperate, "I'll give you something precious in return." The sea had brought me home, but I never paid what I owed. Around midnight, the line went slack in a way that made my stomach drop. Not slack like the bait fell off, slack like something had taken it so fast and so deep that the tension just disappeared. I grabbed the rod and started reeling, my heart hammering. The line came up easy, too easy. When I got to the end, the hook was bare, stripped clean, like whatever took it had picked the meat off, delicate as a surgeon. I was baiting up again when the rod nearly jumped out of my hands. The line screamed off the reel so fast I could smell the friction burning. I'd hooked big fish before, marlin, sharks, even a small whale once by accident, but this was different. Whatever was on the other end wasn't pulling like a fish. It was pulling like it had a purpose. I braced myself against the fighting chair and started working the rod, trying to gain back some line. My arms burned, my back screamed, but I kept pulling, kept fighting, because that's what you do when the ocean decides to test you. That's when I noticed the water. It was glowing, not bright like daylight, more like someone had spilled liquid moonlight into the black ocean. A pale green luminescence spread out from where my line disappeared into the depths, pulsing slow and steady like a heartbeat, and then I heard it. A voice, not words exactly, more like the memory of words, the ghost of something someone said long ago. It came from below, from the glowing water, and it said a name I hadn't heard spoken aloud in 40 years. Earl! My hands froze on the rod. The voice came again, clearer this time, riding up through the water on that eerie green light. Earl, you promised! The line jerked hard, and suddenly the Mary Catherine was moving, not drifting, being pulled straight out to sea, faster than any fish should have been able to manage. The engine was off, the anchor was up, but we were cutting through the water like something enormous had us. I looked down at my line, watched slice through the glowing water, and I knew with absolute certainty that whatever was down there, it was my reckoning. The Mary Catherine picked up speed, cutting through the black water like she was being towed by a freight train. I wrapped the fishing line around my forearm. Stupid thing to do, I know, but panic makes you do stupid things, and held on as the boat lurched forward into the darkness. The green glow beneath the surface was spreading now, wider and brighter, turning the ocean into something that looked like liquid emerald. I could see shapes moving in it, shadows that twisted and coiled in ways that made my eyes hurt to follow them. Earl, you promised something precious. The voice was louder now, closer, and I recognized it. God help me, I recognized it. It was my own voice, my 18-year-old voice, the one I'd used that day on the beach when I was drowning and desperate and willing to say anything to survive. I'd been thought I was invincible. Took my daddy's boat out in weather I had no business being in, and a rogue wave flipped me like I was nothing. I remember the cold. I remember the water filling my lungs. I remember sinking, watching the light fade above me, knowing to die. That's when I felt something grab my ankle, not like a hand, like the ocean itself had reached up and taken hold of me. It dragged me down deep into darkness so complete I couldn't tell which way was anymore. And then I heard a voice that wasn't a voice, felt a presence that was older than the rock on the ocean floor. What will you trade for your life, young fisherman? I'd screamed into the water, bubbles exploding from my mouth. Anything? I'll give you anything. Something precious, something that matters. Swear it. I swear on my life. The grip on my ankle released, and I shot toward the surface like a cork. I broke through, gasping and retching, found myself somehow only 50 yards from shore. I swam like the devil himself was chasing me, crawled onto the beach, and lay there shaking for an hour. I told myself it was a hallucination, oxygen deprivation, a drowning man's dying dream. But deep down, I knew better. The ocean had saved me, and the ocean expected payment. I just never gave it. The line jerked again, snapping me back to the present. The boat was slowing down now, the engine of whatever force was pulling us seeming to lose interest. The green glow was directly beneath me, maybe 30 feet down, pulsing like a massive beating heart. I leaned over the side, trying to see what was down there, and that's when the water erupted. It wasn't a fish that broke the surface. It wasn't anything I could properly describe, even now. It was like the ocean itself had taken shape, a column of water and light, and something else, something alive and angry and old, beyond understanding. It towered above my boat, 20 feet high, and in the center of it I could see faces, dozens of them, hundreds maybe, pale translucent faces pressing against the wall of water like they were trapped behind glass. Some were screaming, some were just staring, and right in the middle, clearest of all, a face I knew better than my own. Mary Catherine, my wife, dead 15 years. But there she was, her dark hair floating around her face, her eyes locked on mine with an expression I couldn't read. Sadness? Anger? Forgiveness? Mary? I whispered. The column of water shifted, and her face moved closer. Her lips formed words I couldn't hear over the roar of the ocean, but I could read them clear enough. You promised something? My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the rod. I know I did. but I didn't know what to give. I didn't understand. The water churned, and more faces appeared, young men, old women, children even, all of them with that same hollow expression, all of them trapped in this thing, this force, this collection of debts unpaid. The sea takes what it's owed, the voice. And this time, it wasn't my voice or Mary Catherine's. It was all of them speaking together. A chorus, drowned in the dam. You swore something precious. You gave nothing, so the sea will... The fishing line went taut again, but this time it wasn't pulling the boat. It was pulling me. I felt my feet leave the deck as the line wrapped around my arm, dragged me toward the railing. I grabbed for something, anything. My fingers found only empty. Column of water reached for me like a massive hand. I knew, finally understood. It wanted. Wait, screamed. Wait, please. I'll give you what I promised. Just tell me what it is. The pulling stopped. The water held still. That green glow pulsed slow, steady. Mary Catherine's face inches from mine now, close enough to see the detail. The mole on her left, the laugh lines around her eye that I used to trace with my fingers. We lay in bed together. What is precious to you, Earl McKenna? The voices asked. I looked at my wife, my partner, the woman I'd loved more than breathing, and I realized what I'd been holding back all these years, what I'd been too scared and too stubborn to give up, even though it was killing me. My guilt, I said, my pain, the weight I've been carrying since you, the way I blamed the way I shut everyone out, the way I stopped living because I didn't know how to live without you. That's precious. That's all I got left that matters. The water rippled. The faces flickered. That is not enough, the voices. That is already ours. The sea owns all suffering. What else? I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my weathered face. There was only one thing left, one thing I'd almost forgotten, the idea that I can do everything alone, that I don't need nobody or showing weakness. I opened my eyes and looked straight at Mary Catherine's face. I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry I never let you all the way in. I'm sorry I made you love a man who couldn't admit when he was scared or hurting. I'm sorry I'm still that same stubborn fool, fishing alone in the dark. I'm too proud to let anyone see me as I really am. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the waves stopped moving. The green glow pulsed once, twice, 3 times, and then began to... column of water collapsed, splashing back into the ocean like it had never been there at all. Mary Catherine's face lingered for just a moment longer, and this time, I swear on everything holy, she smiled. The line went slack. I fell backward onto the deck, gasped, sobbing, feeling like something had been ripped out of my chest and left a clean, empty space behind. When I finally pulled myself up and reeled in my line, there was something on the hook, not a fish, small, tarnished locket, the one I'd given Mary Catherine on our wedding day, the one she'd been buried with. I held it in my shaking hands and wept like I hadn't wept since the day we put her in the ground. The ocean was calm now, the stars were bright, and for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel alone. When the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the Atlantic in streaks of gold and lavender, I was still sitting on the deck of the Mary Catherine, holding that locket in my... The night's madness felt unreal, but the salt on my cheeks and the ache in my arms reminded me it was no dream. The green glow had faded as suddenly as it appeared, the water settling into gentle swells, the faces, the voices, the column of living ocean. They were gone. All that was left was me, a broken old man with nothing to hide. Something vital inside had shifted, quieted, as if the sea itself had finally let me go after all these years. I started the engine, listening to her familiar rumble, and point to bow toward home. The gulls began their morning song, and I felt the strange peace that comes after a storm, fragile, unfamiliar calm. Docking back at Murphy's, I shook off the strange looks from the boy. I left the locket in the cabin, tucked where I knew the ocean would keep it safe. From then on, I kept company when I fished. I let folks help bait the lines. I shared stories, even the hard ones, and when someone asked if the legend was true, I'd answer with a smile and a shrug. Did it really happen? Some days I think so. Others I think grief played a trick on, conjuring faces from the fog, teaching me lessons only the sea can teach. Maybe it was real, maybe not. All I know is I never felt that darkness again. The ocean got what it was owed, or maybe it taught me what it truly means to pay a debt. The sea keeps her secrets, and I learned she cares less for fish than for the pride and sorrow a man carries into her wave. She waits, promise, the one you keep, and patiently collects what's due. So here I am, telling you this as the sun dips low, the salt air stings my eyes, hoping you hear what I failed to learn until it was nearly too late. The ocean doesn't judge, but she never forgives what you hide from yourself. If you ever make a promise to the sea, to anyone you love, pay it honestly and soon, before the waves decide to collect what you don't want to give. There's no shame in asking for help or admitting you are afraid in the dark. Pride can drown a man faster than any storm. If this story moved you, give it a like and subscribe to hear more tales from Earl McKenna's long life on the water.